national championship yesterday in baseball. And I know it's a little, there were a couple of things. One, after the game last night, kind of going to dinner, bumping into people, seeing people that you know or that you recognized or whatever, everybody's reaction was kind of the same. It was like, my gosh, can you believe it? And then it was like there was this question that people kept asking, and I don't know if it was about validation or what, but everybody wanted to know, did you really believe this could happen? Because I think lots and lots and lots of Ole Miss fans wanted to believe that this could happen and, hoped that it would happen. But it's like, all right, now that it's happened, can we all be honest and go, yeah, but did you – So I think there were a lot of people that were searching for words. So a couple of things. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different layers that we can talk about today, and I'll let you guys do that here in just a couple of minutes, and I'll get out of the way. Number one, the welcome home. So they win it yesterday. Ole Miss spends the night in Omaha last night. They get on the charter flight at 11 or 12, something like that today. First of all, they landed Tupelo because it was a 150-seat plane, and that's too big for the Oxford airport. So they land in Tupelo, and you got, couple of hundred people that are at the Tupelo airport, and they're like reaching through the fence for high fives and cheering and all that goes on there. And then Ole Miss jumps on the bus. And I don't know if you've seen the videos or not, but, it's a motorcade and highway patrol and sheriff and police car escort bringing them into campus. And this is probably where you could make a joke if you wanted to, right? That Ole Miss has always had that sidewalk that goes through the middle of the Grove called the Walk of Champions. But the champions part, I mean, that's like been kind of in name only, right? And today they unload the bus right outside the Union, and the Ole Miss baseball team gets out with a national championship trophy. And they walk down that strip with a few thousand people in the Grove on a Monday afternoon at 2:30, and truly walk down that path as champions of the Walk of Champions. So pretty cool in terms of the arrival home. They've got the parade and the celebration in the stadium that's happening on Wednesday, and got all the details for that later on. I was thinking and kind of have as we've been riding today. So there are a lot of people that have kind of waited for this a whole lot longer than I am because, Borky, believe it or not, there actually are some people that are older than me. Not a lot, but some.
Very few.
Very few. So my family moved to Oxford in November of 1988. The new stadium, Oxford University Stadium at Tom Swayze Field, opened in 1989. And I went to for the very first game in the new stadium. They had, or at least the day where they did kind of the grand opening celebration. And, it felt like all the people in the world. There were like 2,600 people that showed up on an afternoon in March. And I think they got their brains beat in by Auburn. And then 2 or 3 years after that, I really started following Ole Miss baseball. My mom worked on campus, and they had a deal for faculty and staff where you could buy tickets for half price if you were faculty or staff. And let me tell you how advanced this thing was. Your season ticket was a business card that had numbers around the outside edge of it, 1 to 32, and it was laminated in hard plastic. And when you went through the gate, somebody pulled out a hole punch, and they punched the number that corresponded with the number of the game. And it's grown, obviously, since then. There are things that stand out for me, and my guess is if you're an Ole Miss baseball fan and you have been for a long time, like there's certain things, even pre-Mike Bianco, that stand out. Like I remember opening day 1992. Ole Miss is playing Minnesota, and Rob Boyd's the second baseman, and they turned 6 double plays. That's a school record that still stands today. I remember so much about the 1995 team that got bumped in the Tallahassee Regional. That was the team where David DeLucci was playing center field. And a year and a half later, you look up and he's in the big leagues, even though he was drafted lower than he should be and was like a senior signee. And probably kind of fast forward through the Pat Harrison era because there wasn't a whole lot of good that was in there. No disrespect intended, but then you get to the Mike Bianco era, and that's when things start to change. Great story, Mike Bianco having a conversation with David Kellum, I think it was, years and years and years ago, and he was like, "Hey, what's the expectation for Ole Miss baseball?" And the response was, "Well, I mean, people would like to get to the tournament, most every year." And he's like, the tournament? They're like, "Yeah, I mean, the SEC tournament." And he looked at him sideways. He goes, "Oh, we're getting to the SEC tournament." And so that kind of tells you where the bar was starting out. And, in year 2, I think it was, they got in, and a couple of times on the road, and they hosted in 2004 and had the disappointment of losing to Western Kentucky. And Grady Hinchman's name doesn't have to be an expletive anymore, right? The little right-handed pitcher for Western Kentucky that was throwing 91 all night. And then you win a home regional, but you have the heartbreak of losing to Texas, and then Miami, and then you go on so there had been so much. You finally break through in 2014 and get to the College World Series, and then it takes 8 more years to get back. And I mean, look, we're retelling a story that's already been told, right? I mean, from last team in to the team that didn't get put out, to yesterday's culmination with Brandon Johnson. And now I'm kind of switching back to the baseball piece of this. Brandon Johnson had thrown 1 inning in 3 weeks, and it was an inning that was inconsequential. But back on Monday night against Arkansas, Mike Bianco said, "My closer's got to throw. He hasn't thrown in 17 days." Gives up a 2-run home run, struck out a couple, just not sharp. You wouldn't expect him to be. That dude was throwing missiles yesterday. The scoreboard radar gun was off a little bit. He was 94, 95, 96, and that may have been the sharpest slider I've seen him throw all season long in the absolute biggest minute. I guess he was plenty fresh because he hadn't thrown really since Miami. I don't know, guys. I'm kind of rambling a little bit. It's just kind of some of the stuff that's been flooding through my mind. And, hey, Dad, I know a year ago you probably had like this similar wave of emotion where you think back to lots of different stuff that you've seen along the way. And in Mississippi State's case, how close they had been without getting there. For Ole Miss, it hasn't been that they've been that close. It's that they felt they should be close, but couldn't quite even get to the stage to have a chance to win it all. And then finally to take advantage of that, it was just incredible. And, I mean, there's nobody that I'm more happy for than for Mike and Cammie Bianco.
Yeah, I mean, and you hit it right on the excuse me, right on the head there. That anytime you're a fan, when your team wins a championship, you're going to have that flood of emotion, and you're going to think back, and all the things that you've sat through and the things that you've listened to on the radio. I mean, I know you said that you've been to all these games. How many more have you listened to on the radio, or how many more have you watched on television? I mean, it's probably in the thousands. And so you get to the pinnacle. And all you look back, and that's part of the fun. Is part of the it was worth it. The ride was worth it. Is what I would say.
And it was a little. I had a lot of people saw me this weekend and like, "Oh, are you working? Are you guys doing the show?" I was like, "I'm just here with my family. We just came up. I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to see it for myself. I'm like, oh, that's cool that you're getting to be a fan." And there's part of me that's like, you know what? I wish I'd been sitting next to David Kellum in that radio booth, and we were doing the broadcast together like we did for 6 years for part of this run. But at the same time, I got to share that moment yesterday with my wife and all 3 kids. And, Jane gets a gold star, along with another mom for loading up the car at lunchtime on Saturday and bringing 5 kids from Oxford, Omaha, and spending the night in Kansas City and coming the rest of the day. But we got to spend that moment together as a family yesterday. And, that's to me, I think, what lasts, right, is, who were you with? What memory did it spark for you? And I know it sounds like you're kind of waxing poetic and being a little sappy, but there's some sappiness that goes along with it. Man, that final out, I didn't know how to react. strike three called, and I think both arms went in the air. And then I just kind of doubled over, and the emotion, like I could feel my eyes welling up and tears starting to form behind my sunglasses. And it was like, fine, you know what? Because I'm probably one of about 20,000 people in this stadium that's got tears that are forming behind sunglasses, or maybe not. So it was certainly a special day. We'll take a time.